Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Diverse Thinking, Different Learning podcast. I'm really excited to be speaking today with Wendy Zanders. She is a declutter coach and professional organizer, but today she's here in her role as mom. Wendy made the decision to homeschool her children, and today she's here to talk about her journey with homeschooling, what it was like for her, and I'm hoping that she will be able to answer some of your questions if you are also thinking about homeschooling your children. I hope you'll enjoy this conversation.
Millions of kids struggle with learning, processing, and social emotional difficulties. These challenges interfere with their ability to reach their full potential. Dr. Karen Wilson is here to help. Her extensive background in pediatric neuropsychology and higher education have prepared her for this unique mission. Listen as she delivers content to inform, educate, and empower parents and educators. This will enable you to identify challenges that kids face and get them on the road to achieving their full potential. This is Diverse Thinking, Different Learning by Child Nexus.
Hi, Wendy. Welcome back.
It's so good to be here. Oh my goodness. Great podcast. I love everything about it. And I'm excited about today's discussion.
I'm excited too. I'm really excited as well. I'm excited about speaking with you again because you were here a while back. We talked about clutter and ADHD and how clutter impacts your well-being and how to address it. I will definitely link to that episode in the show notes because it was a good one. But today we're talking about something different. We're actually talking about homeschooling.
I'm excited about the homeschooling journey with both of my kids. Even though we are homeschooling as a family, each kid is different. So I'm excited to jump in. I know there's going to be families with just one child versus multiple children and how they are parenting separately. And I just want to share our story on both of our kids and how differently they're being homeschooled.
Yes. And that's why I wanted to speak to you about this topic, because you have firsthand experience with homeschooling, and it's a topic that comes up for many families. They're asking, is homeschooling the right choice for my child? How do I do it if it is? I would love for you to kind of talk about your journey to homeschooling for your family.
Yes. So many times, families have reached out to me, especially during COVID and, 2020, 2021. A lot of families were homeschooling during COVID and never went back. And I applaud them for that. They were able to figure out what worked for their families and continue on. So when families come to me even now saying, how are you doing this? Or even some people that says, I can never homeschool my children. And I always ask them, why is that? Because if the school is failing your children and you're just afraid that you're going to make a mistake, you're not as qualified. You are qualified because you get to decide what is most important for your family. And then you build a curriculum and life around that. So for us with our homeschooling journey, so I am from Trinidad and Tobago. And before I even knew what homeschooling was, now it's more prevalent in Trinidad, but I didn't know that until I moved here to the United States. So we moved here to Maryland, and I was working for the federal government. My husband was working as a contractor, and my kids were in public school. So my daughter was in pre-K and my son was in 5th grade at this point. And knowing that we were getting ready to move to Arizona, we wanted our son to finish out elementary school. If we're going to make that move to my daughter moving into elementary school and my son moving into middle school, this was the time to do it. And before we were moving, we had a play date with a family at our church that was homeschooling. We went to the library and then we went out to Chick-fil-A for dinner. And at the end of that night, my daughter said she wanted to be homeschooled. So trying to figure out what all that was. So when we got to Arizona, we moved there in June, and there was a homeschooling conference in July. And I went there and I wanted to get to all the booths to gather up all this information to make an informed decision. And I knew I needed to find a curriculum before I left the conference. And we picked the Abeka curriculum at that point. my kids were in Christian school, so they were using the Abeka curriculum. But through all the tears between myself and my kids and the frustration, we decided that the Abeka program was great, but it wasn't the right fit for our family because it felt like it was public school at home. It was very, very stressful. So we were able to do unschooling at that point. And when my friends told me about that, it was like, you just do schooling at home, your everyday living, whether you're doing laundry or you're cooking meals, you're doing math with, if you're making pancakes, doubling the recipe, that's ratios. Cutting up a pizza, you're learning fractions. Going to the grocery store, you learn about money, right? And how much things cost. So being able to do all these things was schooling. So just getting into that journey and just having a community of moms and dads around us doing homeschooling, that really gave us the courage to go off and homeschool our kids.
Wonderful. And how did you know, Wendy, that homeschooling would give your children the best opportunity to thrive? Because I think that's a decision that many parents struggle with. You know, parents make the decision to homeschool or consider homeschooling for so many different reasons. How did you know that that was going to be the best option and the best opportunity for your children?
I gave myself an out. I said, we are going to try homeschooling for 1 year. And if it's painful, if we don't like it, if the kids doesn't like it, they can always go back to public school. So it's okay to just try it. Try it for a semester. Try it for, let them go from the beginning of the school year and say, you know what? At Christmas break, if we are not getting it, then we go back to what's already out there, right? But honestly, if the public school is not working for your children, IEPs are not being implemented, which was happening with us when we moved to Arizona, and even here when we are now here in Florida, if those basic needs for our children are not being implemented, you are qualified to do this for your children. So give yourself an out, and it's okay to say, you know what, we're going to do this 100%, but just say we're going to do it for a semester and we're going to do it 100%. And if it doesn't work for our family, then the kids can always go back to public school. But if your kids are struggling in public school, give it a try.
Yeah. And I just think it's so important for families to explore their options, because oftentimes they think that the public school or an independent school in their community is the only option that they have. But there are so many options. There are one-on-one schools. There are, small community schools. There is the option of homeschooling, right?
And you can get a tutor as well. So if you're not qualified, if you have a middle schooler or a high schooler that wants to be a scientist or want to be, a doctor, you can get a tutor for your child. You don't have to teach everything yourself. Enlist the community around you to help your child thrive. Find those courses that you are confident in and then get a tutor for the rest. It doesn't have to be mom and dad doing all of it. Build your community around you and your family.
And that's another important piece, that as a parent, you do not have to be the one who is the teacher or, assuming that teacher role. You can be, and many parents choose to do that, but either having someone else step into that role in the homeschooling environment, or having someone that is providing additional support like a tutor for your children. That's a really important point as well. And that also decreases the overwhelm because it's not just you.
Yes. One of the things that I hear is we need the income. So both parents have to be working. So if you're homeschooling, then it's like, do I have to quit my job? I mean, we need the income, right? There are families that are working full-time jobs or running businesses during the day, and then they're schooling the children at night. So it doesn't have to be public school hours. We do 1 hour of structured schooling a day. We get math, English, reading, writing out of the way. And the rest of the day is my daughter, like after our call, is we're going to Pokemon Club. She loves Pokemon and she reads Pokemon books, so she may not read typical public school materials, but she can read a Pokemon book, and kids are learning to read that way. Find something that the kids love to read and they will thrive. If you're putting something boring in front of a child with ADHD and you're asking them to read it, it's going to be painful. Even for an adult, it's going to be painful. So if they are able to, read something that they enjoy reading, they will get so much more out of it. Go to the beach and do turtle watching and, do marine life. So find that thing that you love, and those kids are going to thrive.
And I really love that, because what I'm hearing you say and what I'm envisioning for a lot of families is that, again, families make the decision to homeschool for a number of different reasons. For some, their children are at grade levels ahead relative to their peers, and parents want to ensure that they're engaged and challenged. For others, their kids might be struggling in traditional educational settings because of learning differences or social emotional challenges. For others, it might be a preference that works for their lifestyle because they like to travel a great deal. And, they're all over the world and visiting different countries because that's the experience they want for their children. So there are so many different reasons that parents choose this option. And it really boils down to making a decision that is best for your child and your family.
Yes.
And there are ways to do it.
And you mentioned traveling. So another way of homeschooling is world schooling. So earlier this year, my daughter and I, we went to Mexico for the World Schooling Summit. And I was able to be the MC for this event, and just hearing from families, whether they are living on a boat or, they live there in Mexico, or they live in a country that doesn't really understand homeschooling, but they want to be part of the world schooling community. It's so important. Yes, you can learn about Mexico in a book, and you can learn about the flag and the people, but it's another thing to actually go there and live with a local family there and learn how to cook the local cuisines and travel and do all these things with the local families. Like the next place my daughter wants to go to is Japan. So learning about Japan, and that's world schooling. That's geography. You can't get that. And yes, you can watch it from YouTube in a classroom, but living it, it's so different. So I love that there's different ways that people are homeschooling their kids, and you get to build community around that as well.
I'm learning 2 new phrases from you: unschooling and world schooling. I'm writing them down, and I'm sure that parents are going to have a lot of questions, and there are going to be a lot of people Googling those terms. But again, it's about finding the best option for your child, because all parents want is for their child to have the best opportunity to thrive, right? That's what we want. We want them to be happy. We want them to thrive. We want them to be engaged. We want them to learn. And learning can look different for different kids.
Yes. Both of my kids are very different. My 4th grader, my 10th grader, my 10-year-old now, she wants to be a scientist. She doesn't know what kind of scientist she wants to be. So her curriculum is all about, okay, do you want to do space? Do you want to do marine life? And she's like, nope, no marine life. So we did turtle watching, and that was nice, but she doesn't want to do anything outside. She's like, I want to be inside. I'm like, okay, so just helping her navigate what kind of scientist she wants to be. Right now with astronomy, so we're getting into the realm of where her little sweet spot will be. And then we're really going to go all out for her. And we just graduated our 16-year-old son, Keyshawn. And we just got back from Maryland. We just moved him to Maryland to stay with my sister to finish out the rest. But he is done homeschooling. We graduated him this year in February, and he just finished a welding school. And he's a 16-year-old professional welder. So it took us a long time to get here from when we started him in middle school. And the thing is, it's not a straight up projection, right? It's a lot of curves. Like he wanted to build a computer. So we had a guy at our church. He helped us get all the parts, and he helped him build his first computer. And then it was gaming. All right. Now he has a gaming computer that he built. And then it was dirt bikes. So we got him an old dirt bike off of Facebook Marketplace, where I said, okay, this is going to be your curriculum. It was painful for us to get him to do traditional schoolwork. But with this dirt bike, I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to get you the manual so you can read it. And he's like, no, mom, I don't want to read. But he was able to go on YouTube, watch videos on how to fix parts. He went on the eBay account, and he put things in the cart that he needed. And at 2:00 in the morning, he would be out in the garage fixing this dirt bike. So we didn't even have to threaten him. We didn't have to say, you need to get your stuff done. We didn't have to do anything. He was just naturally learning. And sometimes to a point where he'll wake you up and say, can you please order this part for me? I'm like, it's 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? But he loved it. And now he's into automotive. So he bought himself his car, his 2016 Dodge Charger. And we were able to do all these things with him. Even in our co-op, because he was interested in dirt bikes, I created a curriculum to teach motorcycle mechanics. And one of the homeschool dads was my co-teacher. And thank goodness he knew about dirt bikes and lawnmowers and things like that. And he was able to teach these kids. We had 4 teenage boys learning how to do this, working with tools and learning every single week. And I created the curriculum out of thin air, and I'm able to share the curriculum with other people. But once your kids have that passion, it is so amazing. Now he's over in Maryland. We just moved him over there. He was done. He wasn't able to get a welding job because he needed to be 18. That was the struggle we were having here in Florida, and getting a lot of no's and just realizing, well, if we have to wait till he's 18, and he missed his friends from elementary school, and we were able to, move him back to Maryland. It broke my heart that I didn't get to continue to teach him all the way till he turned 18. But sometimes that is okay to turn over, right? My husband and I were able to just say, it was hard, but we did it. So now he is in Maryland. He's working at a collision center because he wanted to take his love of welding and automotive, collision repair and fabrication into those skills. So even though he's not able to do welding, he's able to learn the auto part without having to go to school. So now the people there are teachers. So now that he's able to work with body men, and he works in the parts department, and just learning that stuff with his hands. He loves working with his hands. So you never know where your kids are going to go. If you have a teenager that you feel that they are unfocused and they're trying different things, that's okay, because eventually they are going to land on their sweet spot, and you're just going to watch them thrive.
And it just sounds like, from everything they're saying, that having that community of support is so important. And, you talked about the co-teacher that helped with your son, and, being able to talk to other families who are also homeschooling, also having different experiences, sharing resources. It seems like that is an important part of the homeschool experience.
Yes, it's very important. So many times people say, oh, well, if your kids are homeschooled, how are they, being social? And the thing is, and actually in public school, I'm hearing now that the kids are lining up against the wall, no talking. You're going to the cafeteria for lunch, there's no talking. There's a small break when they are playing on the playground where they can't even be that loud because the teacher needs to be able to hear everybody. So if you're on a playground, you can't be loud and boisterous like everybody, like you normally will. So everything is so hush. Everybody needs to be so quiet, because when you have 1,000 kids in the cafeteria, and you want to tell your friend about your day, you have to hurry up and eat because everything is so structured. Whereas homeschool kids, you meet at the park, you meet at the beach, you meet at the Pokemon club, right? And you're able to be social. Now, there are kids that won't be able to be social, maybe with their special needs, maybe they have social anxiety. But honestly, there are so many opportunities for kids to be social. Even in our church, our church have a youth group, the kids have Sunday school, so they are able to be social. So socializing happens at all times. So I just want to break that myth. Homeschool kids are social. Sometimes I feel like I am my children's social director, because sometimes I'm like, well, we're not able to do this activity because I have to work. So sometimes there are so much social stuff happening that we have to prioritize those things. So absolutely not. These kids are very social. They are very social.
And many parents do worry about that. They worry that if they choose to homeschool their children, that their children will not get opportunities to socialize. But it sounds like that is something that parents will actively and intentionally seek out for their kids, whether that's a Pokemon club or a STEM club or meeting up in the park or going to the beach or joining other parent groups where parents are also homeschooling their kids and want those socializing opportunities, that there are many ways to get that in.
Absolutely.
Now, when I'm thinking about, a lot of the things that you're saying, it seems that homeschooling provides a lot of flexibility for families, which is one of the things that I think will resonate with a lot of families is that you can be flexible in the sense that you can lean in and double down in teaching your child in their area of interest. You can also be flexible in terms of where you actually do the homeschooling, where that takes place.
Yes.
It can take place in Mexico. It could take place in Japan. There are so many ways that you can incorporate real life experiences into the learning experience, and they are related. And
Absolutely.
I think that, were there any surprises during the homeschooling journey, things that you didn't expect or wished you had known?
So I am so glad that I was able to have homeschool moms that have been doing this before me, because if I was the only one doing this on my own, I would have burnt out. When we were doing Abeka, I got the permission to stop doing the things that wasn't working for us. And it took a lot for me to stop instead of powering through for the entire year. So when we were doing that unschooling, I was like, but my kids aren't learning anything. And my friends was like, yes, they are. They're learning to do laundry. They're learning these life skills. And we always felt, coming from public school, that, oh no, they needed to be doing calculus and doing all these things. When we were traveling back to Maryland to drop off our son, we were visiting with family, so we took a break. So it is okay to build these breaks into your school year. We school year round because we are able to say, oh, we have a trip coming up to Japan. Then we're able to pause what we're doing. That we won't do math and English, the traditional, getting those things done, learning about time and money and things like that. But we're going to do a different kind of math when we travel to Japan, or you're traveling on the road, or just saying, you know what, we have family coming in town. Christmas is coming. Thanksgiving is coming. We're going to take a 2-week break. So whether you go to school year round or you follow the traditional public school and just be off for the summer, you have that flexibility. If you feel like, okay, your everybody is just on level 100, we're going to take the week off and we're going to go to the beach and do these other activities, you're able to push pause on that as well, instead of powering through for the public school holidays that they have. Actually, we keep track of the public school calendar because we are home when they are on break, because it's very peoply outside. So we tend to be more home and let them have the parks and the beaches and all those things. And when they go back to school, that's when we come back out and we have everything to ourselves. So we love that flexibility that it provides. Absolutely.
Yes. And it just seems like that's one of the big considerations and the advantages to homeschooling, is to have that flexibility. And again, homeschooling is going to look different for different families. For some, it will involve travel. For some, it will not. For some, it will involve calculus because that's what their kids enjoy, right? And so it really has to be tailored. And that's the beauty of it, that it can be tailored to meet your child's needs, meet them where they are, and give them the opportunities that they need so that they can not only do what they want to do at the present moment, but then also be who they want to be when they are an adult.
Yes. And based on the state that you are in, there are states that have scholarships. So in Arizona, there's a scholarship for everybody. It's universal, as well as special needs. Some states it's only for special needs that gets the bulk of the money to help homeschool their children. Because these resources are not available for public school kids, some of the public schools are not able to support a child with autism, and all these different differences that we have, right? So these scholarships are available. So based on the state that you are in, look into these programs. You can Google, does my state offer scholarships for homeschoolers? Ed Choice is a really good website as well, and look and see if your state offers any type of scholarships for homeschooling. So don't feel like you have to spend all this money. You really don't. You really don't need a whole bunch of curriculums. My daughter uses My Academy online. It's an online curriculum, and it has all the classes on there. It's from kindergarten to 8th grade and I paid for the lifetime membership. It was about $500 from kindergarten to 8th grade. Everything is in there. They are always adding new programs from Spanish, English, language. There's even a My World back there where every time the kids does their assignments, they get like coins, so they can go into the My World and they can shop, they can build their own house, they can create art that they can put into the store that other kids can buy. And it's amazing back there. Sometimes my daughter, she will be like, "Can I get on me? I can." Absolutely, go ahead. And you don't have to threaten the kids to get their schoolwork done. They enjoy getting it done because it's 1 hour, it's 40 minutes, and it's done, and they're able to do other things for the rest of the day. So don't feel like you need to have all these curriculums. You don't need another thing too. Don't feel that you need to dedicate a room in your home for homeschooling. My kids, they would be on the in the park or at the beach, right? We're driving in the car. They would get their assignments done. They want to be out, on the back porch, on the swing. So don't feel like your kids are going to sit at the dining room table and do schoolwork, because that's not how they learn. Some kids want to be in a classroom in the home with the actual chairs that they have in school, and they will thrive with their little whiteboard. But other kids, so if you're going to do homeschooling, don't start that way. But if you notice that your kid is always sitting at the dining room table and that's where they feel comfortable, then create a homeschool room. But other than that, your kids will do their schoolwork wherever they feel. So don't feel like you need to spend all this money to get this homeschool room and get it all official that you would see on Pinterest. Your kids may not learn that way.
Right. I think a lot of parents did that during COVID. They designed these great spaces for their kids to learn, and they didn't use them. They were laying across their beds, or they were, in the backyard.
On the swing and everything. Yes.
Yes. Wendy, you are such an amazing champion for families who have members with learning differences and challenges. I cannot thank you enough for being in the Child Nexus community and for all that you do to support families. If listeners want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Yes, I am #YourDeclutterCoach. My website is yourdecluttercoach.com. And I also do accept those scholarships. I'm able to come in as a life skills tutor to help your child declutter and organize their schoolwork as well as life skills, right? Time management and productivity and how to study. So I'm able to accept those scholarships as well. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you're thinking about homeschooling, please reach out. We have a huge community of advocates, moms, dads, grandparents, that's able to help you get started.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Wendy. And I definitely will put a link to all of your contact information in the show notes. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to this episode. If you want to learn more about Wendy, be sure to check out the show notes, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Diverse Thinking, Different Learning by Child Nexus. For more resources, visit us online at childnexus.com.